All right, here we go. Critique for Project 3. Just want to tell everybody thank you for all the work that you're doing. I know this is out of some of your comfort zones, so I hope you know that I appreciate the time and effort that you're putting in. So here's the first project. Looks like this one belongs to somebody named with the last name of Barrett, Sarah. Sarah, nice job. Wow, look at that photo. You've captured some really beautiful color and done a really nice job here. Just a couple of things that I would suggest. One, I really like that you put a little contrast here behind the color of this text to help the text pop out. But let the distance between the text and the shadow, let that be less distance. So bump that distance down. You've used a creative alignment here, which is fine. I think that it works. I would love to see more contrast in your text. So find a word or a phrase that you think captures the essence of this message and do something to contrast it and make it pop out. I love that you made Albert Camus really small. Please keep that. That's excellent. That tells us that this text functions differently than the quote itself. You did the same thing here with this text. You turned it sideways to help us understand that it doesn't function the same. You did use the same font, although you put a little bit of tracking or more spacing between the letters. So I think that's okay. I don't think that I'd put so much space between the letters, but it's okay. One thing that you don't ever want to do with typography is stack letters vertically like this, because they're harder to read and it creates some proximity problems and some tangents. So like between the blue and the L, see how close those are, but between the L and the U, there's more space. And then the words just feel unbalanced and they're tricky to read. So I would discourage you from doing that particular thing with typography. I love that you kind of put these snowballs or snowball smatters or something. I don't know what to call them, but I really like that. That was very creative. Overall in your piece, I wish that there was more white space. And I'm not sure how you're going to create that. Your photo has so many different areas of interest. There's really not a lot of negative space in it. So it's good that you created this space out here, but I wish that your text had some more room. You know, maybe this color scheme could be smaller so that it doesn't take up so much, so that it doesn't call so much attention to itself. Okay, here's the next one, and it doesn't quite fit on my screen. Give me just a second to make it smaller and reposition it. You have to make it really small since it's a horizontal piece. Okay, we've almost got it there. All right, so a message here: because of you, I laugh a little harder, cry a little less, and smile a lot more. That's nice, great message. I'm not sure what the specs say. I really should have looked at that, but will you please look at it and make sure that it's okay if you don't have a typical height and width ratio. I think most of our projects are set up to be 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 8.5. But this looks like it's too wide. But again, maybe the specs don't say anything about that, and maybe this is just fine. But just take a look. I'm not sure I understand what's going on up here with these things. You know, maybe they're just a random design. It says gold here and yellow here and monochromatic. Typically monochromatic is just one color. So I think on the color wheel yellow is one and then gold is a different color. So I'm not sure which of your colors is your color scheme. Your typography needs to be pushed. Right now it has everything is the same. I don't get a main message. It does have some space, although this box is kind of trapping it in. You might consider not putting it in a box, or you might consider making this box larger, or letting the box go off the edge of your piece instead of being all on, although you did leave some nice space around it. This word is definitely trapped up here, and I don't understand why you've got this sideways word and this one is not sideways, but just do some thinking about that. I'd really like to see some more Gestalt. Okay, so Gestalt is when everything is working together to communicate the message. It seems to me that this design stuff up here is on its own, this quote is on its own, and this photo is on its own. So it's like you've got three things, plus the color scheme kind of floating in there. Is there a way that you can pull these all together into one unified message? Really push the principles of design. That they will help you to do that. Okay. All right. I'm gonna have to zoom now to get into the third one down. I noticed that this one came in really small. I'm not sure why some of the PDFs are so much smaller than others, but I'd encourage everybody to check the size and resolution of your document in Photoshop. They really need to be at least 150 pixels per inch, and they need to be, I think, 8.5 by 11 or 11 by 8.5. Okay, this is a beautiful photo. I love it. Such a cool contrast between these reds and the white and the blues and the snow, and I think you picked a good color scheme. I'm not sure which color scheme this is, so somewhere on here you need to label that this is triadic or analogous, or it's not analogous, but figure out what red, brick, and blue make, and then label your color scheme. At least I'm not seeing that right now. I love your quote. It's a powerful quote. I love that it has space. I think that your design elements are calling too much attention away from the beautiful photo. So I'd make them smaller and I wouldn't put them in all the corners and put lines all the way around, because it's really trapping stuff in when we could have even more white space around. So is there a way to minimize that? I wouldn't center align your text. That's a weak alignment, and you've got a strong element here in your photo. So if it was me, I would draw an invisible line right about here and then right align my text to that. I think I would take the quotes off, because the quotation marks and even the period at the end will throw that strong alignment off. You used a hyphen here for Anne Frank. I wouldn't use hyphens unless it's a hyphenated word. Instead, what I would do is just make Anne Frank a lot smaller than the quote itself. Give me some contrast so that I can tell what's important and what's not important. You don't want any hyphens in your text. Okay, so this word remains should all be on one line. Just hit the return key so that you're in control of where words are. In fact, you might want to make several different layers of text so that you can arrange the words around each other and you can create contrast. Right now you don't have any contrast within your quote, and it could use some. These words down here are as big as your quote, and they're just not as important. So think carefully about that. What is the main message that you want people to get out of your piece? Okay, and here is the third one. I'm going to have to zoom out a little bit so we can see it. And move my window around. Okay, sorry, a little bit more zooming. Okay, so books are uniquely portable magic. Awesome quote, awesome book lovers quote. And then you've got your big blue, yellow, and red. I like the way that you did this color scheme. It's unique. and it kind of goes along with the blocky feeling of the books. This doesn't look red to me. It looks more brick because it has so much orange in it. So check that. Also, it looks to me like you've used a modern and an old style, and those two font categories, at least at this size, they are conflicting with each other because the serifs, and they're similar but different. So consider using a different font. If you want to use this old style here, then consider using a sans to complement it. And make some contrast. So right now these big blocks of color are screaming for attention, but what you really want is for your message to get across. Make Stephen King less dominant than the quote itself. Make primary triadic less dominant than the quote itself. The quote is the big thing. Make it big. I'm not sure how to say this except that your photo isn't very compelling. You've got all these used books and they're at kind of an odd angle, and you see the corner. This reflection is pretty cool, but these books, they look like they've been abandoned and shoved into a corner. So if you want to show that books are magic, you might want to try a different photo of books, because this, again, the Gestalt here isn't saying books are magic. Hope that makes sense. Okay, here is the last one. I can pull it up there. Maybe zoom in a little bit. I am struggling with my interface today. Okay, here we go. The difficulties of life are intended to make us better, not bitter. And then we've got this cat who has only one eye. That's really cool. Is that your cat? Dylan, is that your cat? That's really cool. Looks like an awesome cat. And look at the color of that eye. It's the same color as in your color scheme. Now somewhere, Dylan, you have to label your colors and you have to put what color scheme you're using. Your design, let me try rotating it and see if we can see it better that way. Okay, a little bit of it is cut off, but I'm just gonna go for it. Let's see, maybe I can. Oh, there we go. I like how simple your design is. I really like that. I wish that your alignment was simple, because what you've got is kind of this, I don't know, where why anything is where it is. It's a creative alignment, but you might consider just doing a strong left alignment. I mean, you've got your strong subject over here, so draw an invisible line about there and then left align your text to it. And then you've got a little bit of contrast with the bitter and the better. But because it's about the same size as this other text, it's not really popping. Okay, really make this pop. Use the bitter and better. You've used a different font and you've used all caps, but try using size. Try using weight, different, something so that I know that this is what you want to pop out. And I wonder, do you really want bitter to pop out? Or don't you just want better to pop out? Or do you want difficulties to pop out? Let's see, let me read this. The difficulties of life are intended to make us better, not bitter. Yeah, I don't think I'd use two words. I think I'd just use one, or maybe a phrase. Make us better, or maybe just better. But anyway, think about that. Keep all this negative space that you can. In fact, if you can minimize some of these design elements, I think you should. They're detracting from this cool photo of this cat, and they're giving your text less space, and text loves space. It's boxing it in and trapping it. kind of shoving it in this corner here. Okay, that's the end of this video. Hope that was helpful.